runs a... Where are you taking that spore plant? What? I've never seen that before. It's the thing, when you turn combat off, things get a bit weird with the enemies, because the spore plants aren't supposed to be able to move, but clearly this guy's just pushed it down the stairs. That's hilarious. Hello everyone, welcome back to Fallout. We are here in Camp McCarran. So today we're going to start looking at Vault 22. I think this is going to be at least kind of 2 videos to be able to cover everything, because there's a lot to talk about, but I've just reverted to an older save so we can talk to this guy. So this is Thomas Hildern.
A pleasure to meet you. I'm Dr. Thomas Hildern, Director of Operations, OSI East. I presume you're here about Vault 22?
Sure.
No, they wouldn't have briefed you, would they? Probably better that our junior fellows stay within the bounds of their pay grade anyway. Vault 22. Where to begin?
Yep, let's hear it.
Imagine, if you will, the wasteland in bloom. Vast fields of corn that grow from seeds and produce their bounty in the space of a month. Orchards of trees, their branches weighed halfway to the ground, hung with fat, ripe oranges, a harvest that could feed a city or a nation. And all this, requiring no more than a few drops of precious water, and the efforts of only a handful of human farmers. Impossible?
Well, nothing's impossible.
Precisely. Science has proven that truth 1,000 times over. But how many wasteland savages believe it? Present company accepted, of course. The bounty I described to you is no idle fantasy. It exists in primitive form only a few miles from where we stand. We need only reach out and unlock its secret. For that, the OSI needs you.
Okay, so... yeah.
Isn't it? One directs one's efforts, or the efforts of others, toward a goal, and progress is made. It's a matter of incentives, nothing more. I believe that the inhabitants of Vault 22 unlock the secrets of vegetative growth. Plants are spilling from their gate. No one tends them, no one waters them. Yet they multiply and spread in all directions. Find the reason for this miraculous growth, and I promise you the OSI will see that you are generously compensated.
Okay.
Good. No need to check in with the NCR authorities. I can authorize your payment from OSI accounts. Vaults typically contain a server room on a lower level, where they would have backed up their research data. A computer room, you understand? Download all the information on the central server to your Pip-Boy, and you'll be certain to bring me any notes or samples that you find, won't you?
Sure, anything else I need to know?
I thought it was a fairly straightforward assignment. It's a simple question of retrieving the data, which shouldn't prove overly challenging. Downloading the data will be handled by your Pip-Boy. You might think of yourself as a mere means of conveyance. No insult intended, of course.
Okay.
Best of luck to you. Not that you'll need it. You seem like a reasonably competent person.
Sure. Yeah, so this guy, a bit kind of full of himself, but he has lofty dreams of orange orchards and growing lots of food and all the rest of it. So he's obviously aware that Vault 22 has the sort of ability to grow plants that nobody's attending, so I guess they know that the vault's pretty much abandoned, and he's like, yeah, simple task, go download the data on your Pip-Boy and come back. Unfortunately, it's not going to be quite that simple.
Did Dr. Hildern, this really isn't any of my business, but did he give you a job? I shouldn't say anything. I know that. But you're not the first person Hildern sent out to the vault. There were a lot of mercs, one after another. None of them came back. Then about a week ago, there was a scientist, Keeley. She's unusual. Not the sort of person you'd expect, but she's an absolute genius, and he didn't mention her? Not even her name? Or any of the other mercs?
Nope, he did not.
But now he's hired you, which means one of two things. Either he heard back from Keeley, and she failed, or he's given up on her. Listen, I make a fair wage, but I'm not rich. Not by any means. Maybe my kind of money wouldn't appeal to your average merc. But I'm willing to pay you if you'll find Keely and make sure she's safe. Isn't right leaving her out there. No idea if she's alive or dead.
Yep, fair enough. I will have a look for her.
I had a good feeling about you. Moment you walked in. I mean it.
Okay, see you later.
Right, good luck.
Yeah, so she gives you an optional objective. So she tells you what Dr. Hildern refused to tell you. Which is that he has sent a bunch of other people to Vault 22 and nobody has made it back. So, from that point of view, there's obviously something dangerous there if, you know, they've hired mercenaries who have gone out to the vault and then not returned. That tells you that there's something dangerous there. And you know, it's Fallout, of course there's something dangerous. But what I'm going to do, actually, let me just quickly, I'll turn the combat AI off, like I do for a lot of these videos. Just the tedium of fighting some of the enemies and things is a lot. So Vault 22, I'll show you on the map, is kind of almost up in the mountains. Yeah, Vault 22 is kind of up towards the mountains, so this is sort of Jacobstown's up here, and west side there, the strip, obviously this area. So we basically want to head up towards west side and then across into the hills where Vault 22 is located. So this is just outside Camp McCarran, so I will skip over the walk and I'll see you when we get to Vault 22. Here we go. So you can actually kind of spot something a bit different even from a distance. There's a bit of a green hue just peeking out here. So west side's just kind of over there. And just in among the hills you can see there's a bit of green glowing, and then as you get closer, so it's enough that, you know, even if you didn't have a quest or anything, you were just wandering, you might spot this in the distance and think, oh, what's going on there? So yeah, lots of greenery, flowers and things. Yep, we've discovered Vault 22, so lots of flowers, lots of ferns, some trees. Welcome to Vault 22, where there's a ton of graffiti, but over the top of all of it, stay out, the plants kill. And then you can maybe see some posturing from the mantises. So there's always a group of giant mantises hanging around outside the vault. And they're quite well camouflaged in amongst all this plant life, because they would have been designed to actually, you know, blend in with plant life. And in the real world, that was something that they did. And we've got mushrooms and things growing, and all kinds of plants. And doors wide open as well. You can see, and there's vines and stuff growing out of it. So. Clearly the plants have taken over this entire place, so let's head inside. And yep, more flowers and things, so it's all mushrooms growing everywhere. And then we've got a bed. There's Programmer's Digest, which might come in handy. We've got a hot plate, a duffel bag. So somebody's come here and made camp for a little while. Then we've got a restored terminal. So system integrity compromised, and then a pile of nonsense. Vault 22 Expedition Entry 1. I've established a temporary camp inside the entrance of the vault. Power inside is minimal but still running, and I've managed to hack into one of their security terminals. The logs show that several people have entered the vault over the past few months, but none have left. It's getting late, so I'll resume the expedition in the morning. Keely out. So we now know these restore terminals are ones that Keely has fixed up, and she's basically logging what she discovers as she spends time in this vault. So entry 2. The growth in the interior matches the exterior to a T. It's a little surprising given the scarcity of sunlight in the entrance room, but even more surprising is that they seem to originate from further below. Maybe that fool Hildern was on to something after all. Since my Pip-Boy is on the fritz, I'll try to keep a running log of my discoveries in whatever computers I can find and collate the data before leaving. So, yeah, so she's sort of seeing that all this growth seems to be coming from deeper within the vault, and she also kind of noted that a lot of the plant life seems to be flourishing without sunlight. I mean, mushrooms you'd expect, they tend to prefer dark places, but you know, you've got what looks like marigolds to me here, and ferns, and there's ivy vines and things. All that should need UV light to grow, so that's quite strange. You can see the integrity of the vault. It's getting a bit on the rusty side, so obviously not been very well maintained for a long time. There's an elevator. You need a repair skill of 50 to fix it. It does make navigating the vault much easier if you can repair it, though. I don't know if I'm going to have that ability. This character's quite a low level. Oh, well, actually, repair 40. If I had... There we go. Sorted. Repair the elevator. So we'll go down to oxygen recycling, which is the second level. That level's just the entrance. So oxygen recycling. So we've got lab straight ahead, then stairs up and stairs down on either side. So if you can't fix the elevator, you can use the stairs. It's just a bit more convenient. So into the lab, and yeah, we've got tree trunks and branches and vines like growing up. So again, Keely was absolutely spot on that the plants that you see in the entranceway are coming from deeper within the vault. So when we come in here, we've got 2 branching paths. And yeah, you can see what they've been obviously doing a lot of growing plants. Around this side there's... So yeah, that's the other door back into that room, and yeah, so that purple glow. So there is UV lights on some of these plants that they are... so, you know, part of kind of hydroponics. A triangle. Triangle? Is that like a pool table triangle, I'm guessing? Weird. So, yeah, obviously we're studying stuff here. We've got microscopes and chemistry sets and computer equipment and things. And then there's... did you see that? There's a mantis run into a hole in the wall there. So there's a section of the vault here that's blocked off. I'm pretty sure that is the room where you get the HEPA filters for if you're doing the Brotherhood quests. And there's this terminal which is supposed to check inventory but doesn't actually seem to do anything. But yeah, storage, we can't get through there, but we will be able to access it later. So let's have a look at this computer. So entry 3. This level seems to have been devoted to the study of atmospheric effects on plants, with a concentration on producing plants with a high oxygen yield. Given the problems these vaults are known to have, it sounds like a reasonable avenue of research. So You know, she's saying, well, yeah, they're obviously researching plants that produce a large amount of oxygen, which is beneficial for the vaults because, you know, the problems that, you know, with water chips breaking down and whatnot, that, you know, being able to produce oxygen in a low oxygen environment, if the air filtration system was to go down, would be something that would make sense that Vault-Tec would want to do. And especially relevant, I think, if we're, you know, taking the indication that Vault-Tec were maybe planning on using the vaults as a way of testing things with a view to setting up colonies on other planets, you know, which their attraction at Nuka World seems to suggest that that was the eventual goal of the Vault-Tec project, was, you know, and that was the goal of all the experimentation, was to see how they could set things up to go and colonise other planets. So one of the things that you would need if you're on a planet that doesn't have a life-sustaining atmosphere like Earth does, you're going to need to produce oxygen for people to survive, and the best way to do that is with plants, because plants only really need UV light and water, and then they can produce oxygen from that, and they can take in the carbon dioxide, and, you know, so it makes sense, and that's kind of what she's saying there, is that, you know, okay, oxygen production from plants, that makes sense for Vault-Tec to want to do that. Entry 4. It's strange, but some sections of machinery down here appear to have been modified for some unknown purpose. The restraints regarding oxygen content and systemic pressure have been bypassed, so there's been some modification to the machineries that she's noticed as well. Then, I've been hearing a strange chittering sound for some time now and finally discovered its source. There's some kind of giant mantises that have taken up residence in the vault. Almost ran smack into one the other day, but the creatures don't appear to react to my presence at all. Perhaps the others sent here ran afoul of the creatures, but I can't see how a few scattered insects could pose much of a problem to experienced mercs. So she's heard the mantises, and she's finally discovered that there is a population of mantises living in the vault, and she says they don't seem to mind her presence, but she also has doubts that that would be enough to put off the mercenaries that have been sent here, because they're insects, so they're not that difficult to kill. But they don't seem to care about her, and if you don't know this quest, you maybe don't know why that might be the case, that she's not getting attacked by them when they obviously attack you. And we do discover, I mean, nobody feels the need, the woman that asked us to find Keely didn't feel the need to mention that Keely's a ghoul. I don't know why that would matter. So she's obviously a very, very well educated scientist as well, which is fair enough. When you've had a couple of 100 years to study science, then you're obviously going to develop some expertise in something. And then in here we've just got more, you know, sort of plants growing and different kinds. But you can see that there's plants growing out of all of the kind of vents and stuff as well. I think this room's much the same. There's not a massive amount of kind of loot to be found this wall, although I don't know why I'm hearing typing in my left ear. Activate restore terminal, so noise complaint. So this one's not one of Keely's journal entries, but yeah, the memory's corrupted, so uncorrupted files only. Noise complaint. Could maintenance look into the ductwork here on level 2 again? I know you guys took a look at this last week, but I swear the noise is back. I even have other people that can back me up on it this time too. So one of the scientists is complaining about some noise coming from the duct system, and wants maintenance to have another look at it. And that's pretty much everything there is to find on this floor. There's obviously that room that we can't access yet, but we will get round to it later on. So let's open the elevator and get down to the next one. So floor 3 is food production. Now you might be able to see it's so clever, they're so well camouflaged, but you can see there's a plant moving there. And we're indoors, underground, there's no wind, because it's not a plant. This is a spore carrier. Yeah, so they don't tend to react too much unless you attack them or get too close to them. But they tend to hide in the plants, so you can see that they're humanoid, but with leaves growing out them, and they're all green and things. So when the sign said stay out the plants, kill, they weren't talking about the mantises that kind of look like flowers, they were talking about these things, which are the spore carriers. So now from this level downward we will encounter them quite a lot. And then we've got more plants in the corner with artificial UV lights. Another terminal. Here we go, entry 6. I finally found some of the bodies of the scientists that lived here. They appear to be overgrown with some form of lichen. They blend in so well with the other growth that I walked right by several of them without even noticing them. I've taken the proper precautions, but the lichen doesn't seem to be contagious, at least to ghouls. So there she confirms that she's a ghoul, she's not human. So she doesn't think that the growth of lichen on the people is going to affect her in any meaningful way. And then entry 7, this level appears to be where they performed most of the research NCR is interested in. Food production, we know that. I've been able to collect a little, but the vast majority of the data done from the research is inaccessible. I'll have to find the main backup and download from there. So she confirms that the data that we're supposed to be here looking for isn't here. It's all been damaged, so we're going to have to go somewhere else and find the backup version. So that's another path in here. I have no idea why I keep hearing typing. Yep, so another room with lots of vines and stuff, and there's another spore carrier here. So they tend to hide in these, that's a brute, so that's one of the higher level ones. And these kind of piles of plants growing, they obviously feel safe there, and they're quite well camouflaged as well. Oh, food additive, I wonder what that's for. Restored terminal. Status report 9228. Yields continue to improve. Splicing together cultivar GN188 with the existing corn samples has produced a hybrid that responds better to artificial lights we have. On a side note, Dr. Peters has missed his 3rd straight day due to illness. His work ethic hasn't exactly been stellar to this point, so I'm requesting confirmation from the clinic that he is in fact sick. So he's reporting that they're developing plants that respond better to the artificial lights than, most wild plants that would prefer real sunlight. But also mentioning that one of the scientists has been off sick for a few days and he's kind of having doubts about whether the sickness is real. And then we've got 9253 status report. On a lark, the guys down in pest control sent up a sample of a substance one of their specimens secretes to attract insects. Tests show that the substance has a mood-altering effect on smaller mammals. If anyone volunteers, we can begin human testing soon. Quite a number of the staff have begun to show symptoms of some sort of viral infection. I've begun to order them to stay in bed and recover, but at this rate there won't be anyone left to do research. So, it's obviously a bit later on, and more people are becoming unwell with something that they haven't really been able to identify, although he's assuming it's viral. And then the next status report, not much to report today. The mood is unusually sombre in the wake of Dr. Peters' passing. There's a strange rumour going around that the commotion downstairs was caused by, of all things, Dr. Peters' corpse suddenly animating and attacking people. I don't know who would start such a vicious rumour, but it's an exceptionally bad taste. So that first scientist that was mentioned being off sick has died, but then people are talking about his dead body getting up and attacking people. But he doesn't believe, he thinks that's all just nonsense, and people making really poor taste jokes about it. So interesting. Yep, there we go. We can see some mantises running around just outside. So there's like a kind of cave system outside the vault. Oh, hello. Yeah, because combat AI is turned off, so the spore carriers will just kind of start following me around, which is fine. If we look to that terminal, this is the room over here that we haven't looked at yet. So, yeah, we've got a cave door access terminal, which needs a key for the door. So contact admin for clearance. So we can't actually open this door yet. But we've got another terminal, which is some more notes from the original vault dwellers. So, security request. Assistant Mathers went into the caves at 1846 today and still hasn't returned, requesting security escort for science personnel to conduct a search. So somebody went out into the caves and didn't come back. Medical emergency. We need a medical team up here now. Dr. Peters just returned with one of the security escorts who is horribly wounded. When I asked him where the other security officer was, he just paled and shook his head. In the meantime, Dr. Bailey has ordered that the door to the caves be sealed until a further investigation can take place. And then help. Is anyone down there? Security is trying to hold off. Well, I don't know what they're trying to hold off. Please send security up at once. With Dr. Bailey watching over his sick wife and daughter in their quarters down in the common area, I'm officially in charge of the level and I'm requesting security at once. So some messages that were kind of sent out that was basically the only ones that weren't corrupted. So clearly something has happened. The security person obviously died, and probably in some horrible way, and they came back with Dr. Peters who had injured people. So chaos was starting to develop in this vault at that point. I think that says explored everything that we can, because we can't get into the cave system just yet, because we need clearance to open the door. So we'll head down to the next level. So 4th level, common areas. So this was the level, this was mainly where people lived, and the stairs there are blocked off. And then these are the stairs back up. There is a spore carrier here. Is this the one? No, it's not. Yeah. This is one set, I think it's that set of stairs that's blocked off, that if you go in there from the next floor down, there's a unique laser rifle. But yeah, so here's your main kind of atrium. This is just the stairs, yeah. Your main sort of atrium setup that is sort of fairly typical of most of the vaults that you'd see. So got the overseer's office ahead, cafeteria over there, clinic, quarters and utility downstairs. So I think this is just the bathrooms. And there is a spore carrier. A spore carrier runt. Hiding in the ladies' toilet. Just as I say, there's not always much worth taking in the toilets, but just be aware, because they do like to hide nasty surprises. We've got a projector here that's still running, whether that was like entertainment or education, and then the cafeteria over here. So yeah, we've got a bar here with beer and Nuka-Cola, cave fungus, first aid box, shirt. Yeah, we've got a Nuka-Cola fridge in here, so they obviously had like a bar area for socialising, and like a diner for eating. Yep, entertainment area, but even then there's plants growing in the corner with UV lights in the pool table in the game room. And then there's this terminal here, which is guess what trivia game, and security is compromised, data integrity is unknown. So this is Keely's repurposed this computer for her journal entry, so entry 8. I guess no one will miss this ridiculous trivia game. The questions weren't even that hard. It looks like this is where most of the people were when they died. The medical reports I found suggested that most of them succumbed to some kind of airborne infection. I'm going to see if I can convert some of the grow lamps into UV spectrometers to test the air for contaminants. Entry 9. After numerous attempts, I found a range that highlights the particles in the air that I believe killed everyone in this vault. Preliminary tests show them to be spores of some kind. I've set up spectrometers on several of the levels now, and the concentration appears to increase in the lower levels. At this point, I'm concerned that the plants here may constitute a danger to the people of the NCR. So she's now discovered that there is some spores in the air. I'm just going to check. Yeah, I'm wearing the rebreather at least. It's one thing that probably should have been that you could potentially risk getting sick in this vault if you don't have like the rebreather or something. But yeah, so she's like, yeah, there's spores floating about in the air here, and you can kind of see that now. You can see these red dots. So she's altered the frequency, the wavelength of the UV light to highlight them in the air, and she thinks that's been responsible for the death and chaos that happened inside this vault. So now that that's done, we'll go past this projector and we'll head up here, which is to the overseer's office, which is wide open. The terminal's broken again, plants everywhere. So it does almost seem like sometimes the plants are grown out of where people were and where people died, and that is a thing. I mean, you know, it's like when you talk about, if you mention the circle of life, everybody just goes straight to thinking about the Lion King. And it's part of the circle of life, is that whenever living things die, be it plant, animal, you know, whatever, eventually that's broken down by bacteria, by carrion eaters, by insects, and then it's the nutrients go into the soil that feeds the plants, and it keeps the whole cycle going. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, and it is part of the whole cycle of an ecosystem. So yeah, interesting one. There, so there's another terminal here. I'll have a look, and yep, so this is the overseer's terminal, so we can unlock cavern access, which means that we can get into all the places we want to get into. But yeah, there's nothing here. There's not even really any notes about the experiment in the vault or anything like that. So now we need to head down to the lower level. I did see a door for that, I think. Does it sit here? Yeah. So I'll head down to the lower level of this section. And yep, plants, spore carriers, absolutely everywhere. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on your head. So, utility section. There's a working computer in here. Then tool cabinets and stuff. Your reactor. There's a flamer, which you might need later. Then another terminal. So, ticket 1, strange noises. Problem, noises and vents. Action, sent a team to inspect. Result, source of problem not detected. So, it's obviously maintenance notes, so they couldn't find the noise in the vents. Ticket 2, gas leak, question mark. Problem, reports of possible gas leak. Several people have complained of coughing fits and other respiratory symptoms. Action, complete diagnostic of air circulation system. Result, discovered minor discrepancies in the mass of the air being pumped through the vault, but no harmful gases were detected. Also, a strange residue was detected on the air filters, which has been forwarded for identification. Swapped out the filters just in case. So people were developing respiratory symptoms, coughing and things, and breathing problems. And they found some kind of residue in the air filters. So yeah, interesting. And then the clinic here. Obviously the medical facility. So you've got, you know, syringes, scalpels and things. Surgery table. First aid box, makes sense to have that. Steady, I wonder if that's for the surgeon. And then we've got a terminal here. So this is a bunch of medical records. So yep, this is some uncorrupted files, which is the patient case database, so medical records for various things. So case 162. So Peters, Harrison T. So we've heard about this guy already. Dr. Peters is suffering from a severe case of pneumonia, the result of the spread of some sort of microorganism in his lungs. I've applied the usual treatment and requested he refrain from working and stop by twice a day for observations. So Dr. Peters is showing respiratory symptoms and is some kind of microorganism, so some kind of infection, which microorganism could be virus, could be bacterial, could be fungal, could be any one of these things, but they don't really know. So he started some treatment and wants to keep an eye on the guy and told him to stay off work. Then we've got case 164, which is a group. So we've got Pam Mitchell, Michael Cordella, Samwise Horton, Naoki Fujimoto and Kenneth Derrida. This entire group showed up throughout the course of the day displaying the same symptoms. They're remarkably similar to Dr. Peters' condition when he first came in a week ago. I hope we don't have a contagion on our hands. So again, there's a bunch of people. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that have showed up all in the same day with the same symptoms and showing some similarities to Dr. Peters. Then 162 update, so this is obviously an update on Dr. Peters. Dr. Peters isn't responding to the treatment, or more accurately, his body is actively rejecting the treatment. His condition has worsened and I'm on the cusp of ordering exploratory surgery. So he's getting worse, he's not responding to the treatment, his body is rejecting the treatment. So he's like, I think I'm just going to have to open this guy up to see if I can find out what's going on and what's causing the illness. Then we've got case 173, another group. Yeah, long list of names there. Elizabeth Bailey, Marsha Bailey, Hayes Garfield. Just a whole bunch of names there, so I'm not going to read them all out, but you know, it's quite a long list of people if they're all split up by semicolons. Yeah, so a whole bunch of names. Another group with chills, a fever and terrible racking cough. I'm recommending that they be separated from the general populace. So again, more sort of respiratory symptoms and illness, and he's like, we need to isolate these people. And then we're back to case 162. So we're back with Dr. Peters. Dr. Peters is dead. His vitals flatlined 10 minutes before he enters surgery, and decided to perform an autopsy immediately, and discovered his lungs were filled with some sort of fungal infection. Strangely, the fungus still shows evidence of growth despite the death of its host. I'll consult with one of the mycologists on the 5th level and see if they can identify it. So Dr. Peters is dead, and he's got some kind of fungal infection in his lungs, which is still continuing to grow despite the fact that he's dead. And then final update on case 162, which you'd think why would there be another update when the guy's dead, but I don't really know how to describe what just happened. 1 minute I was closing up for the day, and the next Dr. Peters' corpse sat up and attacked me. I was able to flee the office and seal him inside until security arrived. But what the hell is going on? If all the recent illnesses are the same thing, and he's decided to be dramatic and leave us on an ellipsis and a cliffhanger there, but so that's confirmation that the doctor, I mean, it'd be a strange thing for the doctor to decide to lie about the fact that this guy's corpse basically got up after an autopsy and then attacked him. And then we've got the living quarters here. So yep, so living quarters here. Not a lot to find, to be honest. I think you can find some jumpsuits and the dressers, which are handy for if you want to give them to Sarah Weintraub at Vault 21. Oh, you okay? So this is an interesting room. So you can see obviously the plant growth is insane, but we've got a spore carrier brute, we've got a normal spore carrier, and then in the corner we've got a spore carrier runt. So we've got a brute, normal spore carrier, and a tiny spore carrier in a room with a double bed, a pram, and a crib. So yeah, it's fairly clear that we've got a parent, couple, and a child that have all turned into these horrific monstrosities. This room is quite important because there's the cave door key card, so that's what we need to get into the cave system. And then yeah, there's teddy bear. So yeah, quite sad. And again, you know, the plants seem to be growing really well where these people, the spore carriers, are. You know, this crib's growing pansies and daffodils out of it without any sunlight. So yeah, that's quite a sad one, but that's like a little family that have all turned into the horrific monstrosities. And then we've got another room. Again, not much to find in terms of loot and things. This room seems a bit cleaner. And then, yeah, loads of jumpsuits. So if you're looking for jumpsuits for Sarah to sell in Vault 21, it's a good place to go to get that. And then we'll head up, and here we go. There's another spore carrier. But there's also a spore plant, which are these horrible sort of Venus flytrap looking things that give Audrey 2 a run for her money. Audrey 2, if you don't know, is the plant from Little Shop of Horrors, which is a kind of musical film, very much irreverent and horrific, in the same vein as like Rocky Horror Picture Show and the like. Really good, really good. I would highly recommend it. But yeah, basically there's this guy runs a where are you taking that spore plant? What? I've never seen that before. It's the thing, when you turn combat off, things get a bit weird with the enemies, because the spore plants aren't supposed to be able to move, but clearly this guy's just pushed it down the stairs. That's hilarious. But yeah, so Audrey 2 is like this plant that needs to eat human blood and human flesh to grow and things. It's all part of the story. It's quite funny. Yeah, it's a good musical if you're into something that's, you know, quirky and a bit horror-y and irreverent with, you know, a bit of dark humour thrown in there. And then we've got this here, there's a bed that's got mushrooms almost kind of outlining the shape of a person. So, you know, that's pretty horrific. But the key thing here is to get the key card from that room with the family in it. And that helps you get around further in this vault. So, yeah, we've been to the clinic. Been to utility. Oh, I don't know why they keep falling over when they spot me. That's so weird. They just like face plant. That's bizarre. Anyway, yep. So we're gonna head back towards the elevator, which is this way, I think. Yep. So we head down to level 5, which is pest control. Okay, stairs. Yep, so this is the stairs back up that was blocked off from the floor above, if you remember. So there's a couple of mantises here, and you can see there's a pile of mattresses and filing cabinets and stuff. But there's a skeleton here with the AER-14 prototype. And there's also some energy cells so that you can use it right away. So this is a unique laser rifle. It's really cool. It's really good, actually. It's really effective. But the cool thing about it is the laser green, which actually should make it more powerful because it's got a shorter wavelength if it's green than if it's red, which means that it potentially has more power, more penetrating power. If I remember my physics, which to be fair, it's been quite a few years since I really studied physics, so can't guarantee that I remember everything. But yeah, so there's more kind of lab space here and cave systems. Yeah, and large parts of this are blocked off. Hello. So yeah, a lot of mantises here, and there is some access to the cave system without the key card. Which we'll get into. It's not exactly what I'm looking for. There's so this is the computer here, where you can download the research data. So there's a couple of things that you'd want that data for. If you're doing There Stands the Grass for Hildern. Okay, so yeah, we'll come up here and there's another kind of lab section. So the final terminal entries that I wanted to look at today are in this computer here. So this is pest control subsystem, so only the uncorrupted files. So there's 3 species that are listed on this terminal. So species 1, BE908, a distant relative of the more commonly known Venus flytrap. Species BE908 seems to be performing well. The plants are a threat to creatures up to 5 times their size due to the violent nature of their closing maws. Those that aren't swallowed whole are often incapacitated by their initial bite. The plant's lack of mobility is offset by their ability to lure prey and to reach by means of a nectar they secrete from their bodies. So like a lot of the kind of carnivorous plants, they secrete a nectar that attracts insects so that they can feed them. So Venus flytraps do it. These species that are related to Venus flytraps do it. And things like the pitcher plant can do that as well. So it's a way of luring prey in. And then species 2, Mantis religiosa. So if you've watched my Science of Foliage series, you'll know all about these guys. So of all the species we brought with us, the common mantis exceeds the rest in terms of predation. The insects are voracious, and their camouflage allows them to attack prey by surprise. Also, they complement our botanical species by hunting down those pests that avoid or escape our other measures. Lastly, mantises will begin to cannibalise one another when food is scarce, making their numbers self-regulating when prey is scarce. So, as we talked about with the mantises, they keep other pests at bay, so things like cockroaches and so aphids and stuff like that. But when they run out of other insects to eat, they'll eat each other, so they kind of keep their population controlled. At least they did at one point. And then species 3, Bovaria mordicana, an entomopathogenic fungus. So entomopathogenic means causes illness in or damages. Entomo is insects. So this is a fungus that is pathogenic to insects. B. mordicana has been developed to colonise the bodies of most common pests. Once it has fully colonised the host body, the host technically dies, but the body continues to move by means of the fungal colony within it. In this manner, the fungus moves amongst more of its prey, occasionally spraying spores in a radius all around the host body, infecting all who come near it. Its drawbacks include the time it takes to kill prey, which is 10 to 20 days, and its limited effectiveness when dealing with unsocial pests. So it requires insects that and pests that kind of get close to each other so that it can spread itself. But the important thing for this is that once it's fully colonised the host body, the host technically dies, but the body continues to move. So this is the zombie fungus, or certainly related to it. So zombie ant fungus. So it's very, very similar to the zombie ant fungus, which is Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. I'll put that on screen in text because that's a mouthful. Which is another entomopathogenic fungus in ants, and basically what it does is it takes over the ant's body. And then it kind of grows through and it makes the ant climb up so that it'll get eaten and basically spread itself around. So it's one of the kind of concerns that it's the closest thing that we have to an actual zombie virus kind of a thing. That obviously exists in the realm of science fiction, but there are these infectious agents that can do things like that and take control of the body and allow itself to spread. Same thing happens, similar kind of thing happens with something like the rabies virus, that tends to make the host more aggressive because that's the best way of spreading itself is through the saliva and through biting. So an animal has to be bitten by a rabid animal to get rabies, and it kind of spreads itself, and then it does, because it damages the brain, it can lead to, there's a condition with it known as dumb rabies, where the animal's basically comatose and unresponsive. The prion diseases like BSE and scrapie and the chronic wasting disease of deer, again, it's similar kind of things because the infectious agent takes over the nervous system, takes over the brain. Quite scary to think about, really, but this is the key, because this fungus, this is the problem in this fall, and we can tell because it does this, where it kills the host body but continues to move it. So seems to be, from what we saw about Dr. Peters, who is essentially like patient zero in this vault. He's not actually patient zero because if you remember from Old World Blues, we actually met the patient zero at the X-22 facility where you find all the seeds for the biological research station in the Big Empty. And it's called X-22. This is Vault 22. The spore plants and the spore carriers are at both locations, so there's clearly a connection between these two facilities. Where the plant growth focus and then pest control here. So one of the biggest problems with plants in any agriculture really is things like parasites, pests, infections. So it's quite an important thing if you're going to grow food of any kind, even if you're producing animals, if you've got dairy cattle or goats or sheep or pigs or whatever, chickens, one of the responsibilities you have, both for the welfare of the animals you're producing or for the health of the plants you're producing, but also to maximise the yield of food that you're going to get, it's very important to keep them healthy, and that means keeping pests away, means keeping infection under control, and all that kind of thing. So the fact that they've been studying that and they've found that the mantises were really useful for pest control, and then this fungus that seems to work quite well for pest control, but they say it's quite inefficient because it takes 10 to 20 days to kill the host. But the fact that the fungus basically takes over control of the dead body of the host, and then you've got all these people that have basically been taken over by these spores, so really quite dangerous. And the scariest part for me, I think, is the fact that there are things like that do exist in real life. Like, this isn't something that's completely science fiction. There are infectious agents, microbes that can actually do this and take over insect bodies and turn them into zombies, essentially. So that's kind of the scariest part, is that this isn't completely science fiction. There is some real life actual fact that is related to this, so quite disturbing. But that's me kind of pushing an hour, I think, and there's still a lot to talk about because we have to go and find Keely and get into the get into the caves and that kind of thing, and speak to Keely about what she's discovered, see what's going on there. So we'll pick that up next time, and I'll try and set things up so that we can head over to Zion Canyon as well, because the story of Vault 22 doesn't end in the vault. Obviously, other than the spore carriers, there's nobody else here, but there is more to the story of Vault 22 and the people of Vault 22 that is related to Zion Canyon and to the survivalist, which is a very interesting story in its own right. So we will pick all that up next week if I have time. There is a possibility over the next few weeks that videos might be a bit delayed coming out. It just depends on how things are going, because I'm packing up to move house, and obviously that's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of stress, and because I'm not 100% physically, I have to be really careful with what I'm doing so that I don't end up completely crippled by it. So things might be a wee bit slower. I might miss an upload or so, but I'll try my best not to. But that's part 1 of Vault 22, and we'll pick it up next week. We'll find Keely, we'll chat to her, we'll see what else she's kind of discovered, and we'll hopefully get over to Zion Canyon, and then we can learn a bit more about what happened to some of the people of Vault 22 that left the vault. Unsurprisingly, it's not a nice story, but you know, that's what we expect with Vault-Tec at this point. So hopefully that was all interesting and fun, and I will catch you all next time. Bye.